I walked around the outside of the site there yesterday, and again, you can, clearly there's, the outer shell, is clearly taken shape, and there's a number of, people working outside in relation to that. But I suppose the big challenge is that we don't know what's going on happening actually inside, and what you were saying this morning about the level of work and the fitting out that needs to be carried out, and I think that's worrying. I think coming into the meeting today, we still don't know how much it will actually cost. We don't know when it will be built. We don't know when it will be fitted out, and we don't know when it will be opened. I think that's a fair summary of what, the information we were given. I think it's welcome news that you've got this meeting in relation to the compliance programme. It would have been helpful if we had have got that before today's meeting. So that's disappointing in itself, Just on the fittings itself, and I'm conscious that I don't think there's any of us in here that have a background in construction. My background would have been labouring at one stage or something, but maybe Nessa has a background in relation to some of the data and that. But it's difficult for us to understand in relation to a bill this size, and I don't think any of us have any real experience of something this large. But the worrying thing is that if what you're saying and what I'm picking up this morning is that you believe that there's not enough workers on site, and that the project is not moving ahead at the scale it should be, and that's down to, I presume, the amount of people down that's actually on site. I'll give an example. Say the likes of the windows. I think most of the windows are in at this stage. As part of the fire safety thing, and it's the same with ducting and all the rest, so the ducting has to be moved. It may have to go back to the centre and so on. So one of the fire safety elements would be the likes of the windows automatically opening if there's a fire. I don't think that element of the windows are in, but the electrics in relation to that hasn't even started, has it? There hasn't been a price given in relation to the actual, the computerised system in relation to that. So that's just one example. I'm just trying to get a sense of what's happening.
I can pick up that and clarify for you. So all of those, they're the automated smoke fence, and they are all installed, and most of the wiring is in for them, and that's still a work in progress. The last phase of that is what we call integrated commissioning, is where all those electrical systems are brought back and connected to the building management system that powers it and it tells it how to act. If there's a smoke detector or there's a fire situation, then they automatically open on sensors. So that last bit of programming work doesn't get done to the last 3-4 months of the project. But the electrical, most of the wiring, all the conduit, the wiring, and all the smoke fence are all installed.
So you're saying that even the windows, all that wiring is done in relation to windows and all?
The majority of it is done. The majority of all that. The facade is pretty much nearly complete. So most of those wires are pulled, they're in place, they have to be finally commissioned and tested. Okay. And that's still to be done.
So that's well advanced in relation to that element.
The physical works are well advanced, but then there's in every hospital project, and that's why we're talking now about room completions. So you can have a programme, but really you have to complete rooms and complete areas before you can do the final building commissioning. And building commissioning is balancing the air systems, it's checking all the electrical systems, checking the data points, for all the computer ICT data from point to point back to the IT rooms. It's commissioning all the boilers, all that kind of stuff. That happens generally in the last year of the project. Now that's just started. We're about 5% into commissioning. We've another, good length of time to complete that out. And that is the last thing that gets done up to substantial completion. And there are system commissioning, so you're commissioning the air handling, the ventilation system, or you're commissioning the electrical system, and then you get the last 2 or 4 months typically on a large project of scale, you have the integrated commissioning, which is all the software integration. which is a guide just making sure it's all connected and it's working.
So, just a ballpoint figure in relation to, like you're saying that it's, to work wherever the compliance programme, the sense is that there's not enough staff doing that type of work, because again, if the time we were there, we're walking around, there's, a lot, you'd like to think there was a huge amount of work done since then. But, you talk to people that are actually on site, and they're the story they're giving is that, you said it yourself this morning, there's elements of the hospital that's still just wires hanging down in relation to, there's still electrics and so on. So there's a huge amount of body of work to be done. And I'm trying to get a sense of how is that work going to be done within a specific time frame in relation to it. So you'd imagine the more workers you have on, the quicker that work would be done. And is that the worry that you have in relation to the contractor or the contractors, that if they don't have enough people on site carrying out that work, it's going to drag out even longer?
That's correct. So basically the contractor is responsible for providing sufficient resources to deliver the programme dates, or for all those activities that Mr. Gooding talked about that makes up the programme. Each one of those activities has to be resourced to meet that date, to keep the substantial completion date. And if you don't have that, then the project can only slip out further. And the proof, unfortunately, the proof of that is that the contractor on average for the last 12 months has only made 67% of its planned progress. So to us, that means there has to be more resource. More resource delivers the hospital quicker.
So what's going to come out of the compliance programme, hopefully, from your perspective in relation to this? Are you going to get that sense of, the additional staff, and, are they going to make up that ground that's been lost in relation to that?
Well, we have to get the programme. We have to get the programme first. We have to analyse it. So where we got previous submissions, there's a whole process of our team and the BAM team sitting down, they presenting it back to us, so we understand exactly what way. There's a basis of schedule, it's called, where it sets out all the assumptions and how they're going to complete the project, and that then is represented back in the programme.
And will we have a better sense when this compliance programme comes out of when the actual finish in relation to
the compliance programme should tell us with certainty that BAM, or if BAM is in the room, say we will complete on this date. So the date that's in that programme should be capable of being delivered by BAM.
So you're saying that next week when we get this compliant programme, that we should have a good sense of when this job should be finished?
We will.
I'm stretching it out.
After we go through the checks and balances.
Because we haven't known up to now.
Chairman, we have to get it first.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that it's complete.
Well, I'm working on the basis that they didn't give it this week, so we might get it next week.
If it's fully fit for purpose and compliant, yes, it should give us. That's the first thing I'll be flicking to. What's the date?
Okay, and you're saying in relation. Okay, that's fine. Just lastly, then, you're saying about the 756 million claims. Do we have any sense of how much it's actually going to cost in legal fees at this stage? How much has it cost up to now?
Oh, forgive me. We can, if it's okay, we can provide you with the numbers of what we spent in 22. We have given that to the Public Accounts Committee, so we can simply provide that information. But the scenario, if you go down the contractual route and this thing takes longer means more expensive, more rows, more things going to the High Court, and therefore that whole budgeting for legal fees is a bigger number. There's no doubt about it. It's not a pretty picture.
But the worrying thing is, and it was commented on one of the members, that the fact that the longer it's going on, the more it's actually going to cost in relation to, and the more money the contractor would appear to be going to receive in relation to that. Now, maybe that's unfair on the contractor in relation, but like the fact that we're talking about, it's nearly coming up to the cost of what the original price was in relation to claims. That would suggest that there's some strategy going on, whether it's you're being forced into down the road of a compensatory role in relation to the contractor and so on. I don't know enough about it, right? But it just for someone, a lame person that's looking in, there's something wrong. There's something clearly wrong when it's, you know, the original cost of the contract is going to, you know, nearly cost the same in relation to claim. There's something wrong there.
Well, they're
only claims. I know they're claims,
yeah.
but there's a strategy seems to be there in relation to one party in relation to this, and that's worrying. And I think that's a really worrying development in relation to
in many ways,
how long this is going to go on.
You know, this is an element within the public works contract. That's the position. That's what it is, and that's the contract that is in place with this project.
And again, I'm conscious that, you know, I presume BAM would have a different view in relation to that, and maybe at some stage we might get a sense of what they're saying and what not saying. But